हेलो एवरीवन, आज हम संक्षिप्त में बात करेंगे मेनिंजाइटिस के बारे में। तो मेनिंजाइटिस बेसिकली किसी भी एज ग्रुप के इंसान को हो सकता है। न्यूबॉर्न में भी हो सकता है, चिल्ड्रन लाइक 6 मंथ to 6 year old के एज में भी हो सकता है, इन द अडोलसेंट, यंग अडल्ट एंड दी द अडल्ट चाइल्ड वाले फेस में भी हो सकता है, या फिर सीनियर सिटीजन्स में भी हो सकता है। सो सीइंग द मोस्ट कॉमन कॉजेज इन न्यूबॉर्न, द मोस्ट कॉमन कॉजेज ग्रुप बी स्ट्रेप्टोकोकस, which includes Streptococcus agalacti, then it's E. coli and Listeria. Among children, the most common cause, and in fact, after newborn in all the age groups, the most common cause is Streptococcus pneumoniae, followed by Neisseria meningitidis, and in the children and the older population, Haemophilus influenzae type B is the third most common. Whereas in age group between 6 to 60 years, enteroviruses, for example, poliovirus or Coxsackie virus, these are more common. In children and more than 60-year-old, after Haemophilus influenza type B comes group B streptococcus, and in children after that comes the enteroviruses, and in more than 60-year-old people comes next Listeria. Okay, and similarly in age between 6 to 60 years, the least common one is HSV. Okay, so this is in brief what we talked about the most common etiology, be it bacterial or viral, which are the most common causes of meningitis. Meningitis is basically nothing but the inflammation of meninges. Meninges are the triple layer covering of the brain parenchyma, which have multiple roles. Okay, for example, CSF, it helps in regulating the CSF flow. It has the blood-brain barrier. It protects the brain parenchyma from other things, and it has the arachnoid matter, and it has the blood vessels and everything. So the to and fro of nutrients and everything that happens by meninges only. Okay. Now, so basically we can broadly divide the meningitis into three categories. Okay, bacterial, which is pyogenic meningitis, viral, and tubercular. Okay, so basically in bacterial meningitis, the opening pressure, that is when the the doctor is collecting the cerebrospinal fluid, that is the CSF. So when the knob is turned on, the opening pressure, that is the pressure of the CSF flowing through the entire the tube, that is known as the opening pressure. So in both bacterial and tubercular meningitis, the opening pressure is increased, whereas in viral it is either normal or very slightly increased. Okay, next in CSF we can see various types of cells, the basically the inflammatory cells such as lymphocytes and neutrophils. Okay, so if it is a bacterial infection, if it is pyogenic, we see most commonly neutrophils, that is present in the chronic phase of inflammation, right? And if it is TB or viral etiology, then we see lymphocytes, okay, present. Now, if the etiology of meningitis is either bacterial or tubercular or fungal, we see that the protein level in CSF is raised, whereas in viral it is normal to slightly raised. Similarly, glucose content dips down in bacterial and tubercular. How do I remember that? That bacteria consumes glucose, so glucose dips down, and bacteria and TB, they're sort of proteinaceous particles. So protein, and it also causes recruitment of various neutrophils and stuff, and they secrete various mediators. So protein levels basically rise. And I remember that TB is like in between viral and bacterial. Viral and bacterial are two extreme ends, and TB comes somewhere in between. As you can see over here, in opening pressure it resembles bacterial, in cell type it resembles viral, in protein and glucose content it resembles bacterial. So that is how I remember it. Okay, you can see over here also that in a normal individual the CSF pressure is around 50 to 150 mm of water, which is the normal CSF pressure, whereas in pyogenic meningitis it can be more than 180. In tubercular and viral it is elevated. In viral it might even be normal. Similarly, the TLC levels, the total leukocyte levels, is around 0 to 5 in normal. It is around between 100 to 10,000 in pyogenic. In viral it is between 25 to 500, and tubercular it is between 10 to 500. Okay, and predominant cell type, as we saw, in pyogenic it is neutrophils, and in the other two it is lymphocytes. The only exception in pyogenic is Listeria, in which if I remember correctly, monocytes predominant. Similarly, glucose content, normally it is around 40 to 70 milligram per deciliter, but in pyogenic it might be almost absent, whereas in tubercular it is slightly decreased, and in viral it is normal. Similarly, protein normally is around 15 to 45, but it might be more than 215 pyogenic. It might be around between 100 to 500 in tubercular, and it will be almost around normal in viral meningitis. Now, few causative agents of pyogenic meningitis is Streptococcus pneumoniae, Neisseria meningitidis, Haemophilus influenzae, Escherichia coli, Streptococcus agalactiae, or Listeria monocytogenes. Okay, and empirically, if we treat, we give intravenously cefotaxime or ceftriaxone and vancomycin, and if listeria is suspected, we give IV ampicillin. In individual bacterium also, we'll be learning what is the therapy that should be given. In neonates, the most common one is, right, Streptococcus agalactiae. So we give IV ampicillin plus gentamicin, and to reduce the intracranial pressure, because that causes a lot of discomfort to the patient, we give intravenous dexamethasone, which is basically a steroid. Okay, now most common causes of viral meningitis include enteroviruses. Okay, enteroviruses can be of two types, polio and non-polio. In non-polio comes Coxsackie virus and all. Next, it could even be herpes viruses, which could cause meningitis. For example, herpes simplex virus 1 and 2. Herpes simplex virus 2 causes molarate meningitis, which we'll be talking about in herpes simplex virus. Next could be varicella zoster virus, can also cause meningitis, Epstein-Barr virus, cytomegalovirus. Then few arboviruses can also cause meningitis. And then lymphocytic choriomeningitis virus can also cause meningitis. And other few rare causes include mumps, measles, influenza, and HIV. HIV basically the co-infection leads to meningitis. HIV as such itself does not cause meningitis. Okay. So this was a brief review about meningitis. We'll read few lines of first aid which is given. Give ceftriaxone and vancomycin empirically, as we talked earlier, and ampicillin if listeria is suspected. Viral causes we saw enterovirus, HSV2, HIV, West Nile virus, which is an arbovirus, varicella zoster virus. In HIV patients, Cryptococcus species. This is a fungal species. Cryptococcus neoformans, which basically causes cryptococcal meningitis. The incidence of group B streptococcal meningitis in neonates has greatly reduced. Absolutely, it has greatly reduced, because in pregnancy, in pregnant mothers, we do extensive screening and antibiotic prophylaxis. So in neonates, the incidence of group B streptococcal meningitis has greatly reduced. Okay, and incidence of Haemophilus influenzae has reduced because we give pentavalent vaccines right now. Okay, so in that we have basically Haemophilus influenzae, diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, and all of that. So that vaccination drive has basically caused reduction in H. influenzae meningitis. Okay, now seeing also a bit about few infections causing brain abscess. So bacterial causes might include viridin, streptococcus, and staphylococcus aureus, right? And multiple abscesses can usually result from bacteremia, that is the dissemination of bacteria into the bloodstream, right? And single lesions also, suppose the lesion is near mastoid or near the otitis, basically the middle ear or somewhere, which basically connects it directly to the brain almost, so that can also cause brain abscess. Okay, so that is like otitis media and mastoiditis, for example, can cause abscess in the temporal lobe and the cerebellum. Sinusitis or dental infection can cause frontal lobe abscesses, right? And toxoplasma can also cause brain abscess. Toxoplasma we'll be seeing in detail later on. So this is briefly about meningitis.